Tom Riddle. Tom Marvolo Riddle is born on December 31st, 1926, in a London orphanage. Last heir of Salazar Slytherin on his mum's side, and abandoned by his muggle father before he's even born. His mother, Merope Gaunt, dies hours later, so Tom grows up deciding early that relying on people is pointless. Even before Hogwarts, he's moving objects without touching them, frightening other kids on purpose, and speaking Parseltongue like it's perfectly normal. Most children have accidental magic. He treats it like a science project. In 1938, Dumbledore personally delivers his Hogwarts letter, sorted into Slytherin. Riddle becomes the perfect student, prefect, head boy, top of the class. Teachers admire him. Slugghorn practically puts him on display. Meanwhile, he's asking about Horcruxes while everyone else is still learning shield charms. In 1943, he opens the Chamber of Secrets, controls the basilisk, and frames Hagrid so cleanly the school stays open. Turns out smiling works better than shouting. After Hogwarts, he joins Borgin and Burkes for access, not salary, Hufflepuff's cup, Slytherin's locket, and wealthy collectors. Then he disappears across Europe studying dark magic and splitting his soul deliberately. When he finally faces Albus Dumbledore at the Ministry in 1996, the duel is less a fight and more a collision of eras. Firestorms, transfigured glass, serpents of flame, and controlled brilliance on both sides. And here's the really alarming part. He flies without a broom. He apparates like it's nothing. He splits his soul into Horcruxes multiple times, and even possesses Harry to escape Dumbledore. That's not flashy magic. It's rare, advanced stuff most wizards wouldn't dare attempt. However you measure it, power, control, sheer nerve, he's operating at the very top of Slytherin history. Merlin. In the wizarding world, he's basically a historical celebrity whose name gets slapped onto everything important. People shout Merlin's beard like it's completely normal. The Order of Merlin is one of the highest honors you can get, and this is the bit that really does your head in. Merlin was a Slytherin. He's linked to King Arthur's era, which means we're talking very early British magical history. Legends say he believed witches and wizards and muggles could actually coexist without it turning into a riot with torches, which is not exactly the stereotypes most people have about green and silver ambition. Turns out Slytherin doesn't automatically mean future Dark Lord. Who knew? The first-class Order of Merlin even has a green ribbon, supposedly in honor of his house. Very subtle. Congratulations on saving Wizarding Society. Please remember where you were sorted. We're not given a neat list of Merlin's spells or flashy duels. What makes him powerful is legacy. His name becomes shorthand for greatness. Awards are built around him. Oaths reference him. History keeps repeating him. No Horcruxes, no face-melting transformations, just cultural dominance that lasts for centuries. Honestly, that's terrifyingly efficient. Horace Slugghorn. If Hogwarts Power had a dinner invitation, it would be written in gold ink and signed Professor Horace Slugghorn. Horace Slugghorn isn't the loud, dramatic kind of powerful. He's the I know someone who knows someone kind. A longtime potions master and head of Slytherin House. He builds the infamous Slug Club, a hand-picked group of students he considers promising. Translation: talented, well-connected, or likely to become famous, so he can say, "Oh yes, I taught them." He collects people the way other wizards collect chocolate frog cards, except his cards grow up to run the Ministry, invent spells, or occasionally attempt world domination. His most important moment? A conversation. A teenage Tom Riddle flatters him just enough to extract information about Horcruxes, a branch of magic so dark most people pretend it doesn't exist. Slughorn knows instantly he's said too much, and when Voldemort rises, that memory doesn't fade, it festers. He retires in 1981 and spends years hiding in comfort, pretending guilt is something you can ignore with good brandy. In 1996, Dumbledore drags him back to Hogwarts, literally. Slughorn returns, still charming, still evasive. But when it matters, he hands over the real memory, and during the Battle of Hogwarts, he fights. For a man who prefers cushions over conflict, that's serious courage. Severus Snape. Severus Snape is born January 9th, 1960 in Spinner's End, which is about as cheerful as it sounds. Half muggle, half wizard, and fully miserable. He shows up at Hogwarts in 1971, gets sorted into Slytherin, and immediately proves he's the cleverest person in the room, while also making sure everyone knows he hates the room. The only good thing in his life is Lily Evans, months until jealousy, pride, and one spectacularly stupid insult ruined that forever. In the late 70s, Snape falls in with the Death Eaters. Then he overhears part of a prophecy and reports it to Voldemort, not realizing it puts Lily in danger. By 1981, she's dead, and Snape is stuck with the kind of guilt that doesn't go away. He switches sides and becomes Dumbledore's spy, living a double life held together by occlumency and nerves of steel. Power-wise, he's terrifyingly precise. As a teenager, he rewrites potion instructions so well they outperform textbooks. He invents spells, some clever, some genuinely unpleasant, because apparently revising the rules wasn't enough. He had to create new ones. In 1997, he becomes headmaster under Voldemort, which looks like betrayal until you realize he's protecting students while pretending not to. And in 1998, he dies quietly. No applause, just memories. Honestly, that's commitment. Barty Crouch Jr. Barty Crouch Jr. had the sort of surname that sounds like it should come with medals and good manners. His father, Barty Crouch Sr., was a ministry heavyweight, strict, ambitious, and allergic to scandal, which means Jr. grew up in a house where success was mandatory and affection was apparently optional. If you messed up, you didn't get a chat. You got erased. At Hogwarts, Crouch Jr. was bright, disturbingly bright, the kind of student who listens quietly, gets top marks, and doesn't advertise what he believes. He drifts toward the Death Eaters not because he's dramatic, but because he's devoted. When Voldemort falls in 1981, Crouch Jr. doesn't retreat, he doubles down. Alongside Bellatrix and the Lestranges, he helps torture Frank and Alice Longbottom, convinced they know where the Dark Lord is. That's not peer pressure, that's zeal. He's caught, tried, and publicly disowned by his father in a courtroom scene colder than an ice charm, sent to Azkaban. End of story? Not quite. His dying mother swaps places with him using Polyjuice Potion, sacrificing herself so he can escape. After that, his father keeps him hidden under the Imperius Curse like a family embarrassment shoved into a cupboard. Then, Voldemort returns, and Crouch Jr. pulls off one of the most complicated cons in the series, impersonating Mad-Eye Moody for an entire year, rigging the Triwizard Tournament, and delivering Harry straight to a graveyard. And just when he's caught, Dementors kiss. No speech, no comeback, just permanent silence. Bellatrix Lestrange. Bellatrix was born a Black, meaning pure blood pride wasn't a belief in her house, it was wallpaper. She's sorted into Slytherin, and the trajectory is almost inevitable. Raised on hierarchy, trained in contempt, and absolutely convinced she's part of something better. She marries Rodolphus Lestrange, but her real romance is ideology, specifically Voldemort. After the First Wizarding War ends in 1981, Bellatrix does what most Death Eaters refuse to do. She doesn't pretend she was misled. She doubles down. She and her circle torture Frank and Alice Longbottom into insanity, chasing whispers of Voldemort's whereabouts like it's holy work. She's convicted and sent to Azkaban, where she spends years marinating in rage and loyalty, two emotions Dementors can't quite drain if you're already hollowed out in the right direction. In 1996, she escapes during the mass breakout and returns to Voldemort's side with the intensity of someone who thinks pain is proof of love. She kills Sirius Black at the Department of Mysteries, not with grand tragedy, just a moment of lethal confidence, followed by laughter that makes the scene feel poisonous. By the final war, Bellatrix is both weapon and warning. She tortures Hermione at Malfoy Manor, guards Voldemort's secrets, and fights like someone who enjoys the sound of fear. Her story ends in 1998 during the Battle of Hogwarts, when Molly Weasley stops her cold, one decisive strike that reminds everyone obsession doesn't make you invincible. It just makes you loud on the way down. Regulus Black. Regulus Arcturus Black is born in 1961 into the House of Black, a family so obsessed with noble bloodlines that they basically treated decency as a suspicious hobby. He's the younger brother of Sirius, sorted into Slytherin, and for a while he looks like the son his parents actually ordered. Pure blood pride, perfect posture, and the kind of smile that says, "Yes, mother, I also hate muggles. Thank you for asking." Then he joins Voldemort's Death Eaters, and here's what makes Regulus terrifyingly interesting. He doesn't leave because someone convinces him with a speech. He leaves because he finally sees Voldemort up close. In 1979, Voldemort uses Regulus's house elf creature to test the protections on a Horcrux hiding place, the Sea Cave, and casually abandons him to die. Creature survives only because elf magic ignores wizard arrogance, and when he returns and tells Regulus what happened, something in Regulus snaps into place. Voldemort isn't a leader, he's a parasite with a wand. Regulus makes a plan plan that sounds like madness and loyalty at the same time. He goes back to the cave, steals Salazar Slytherin's locket, a Horcrux, and leaves behind a note signed R.A.B., telling Voldemort he knows his secret and intends to destroy it. He orders Kreacher to escape, and Regulus stays. Inferi drag him under, and Hogwarts never gets to put his name on a plaque because nobody knows the full story for years. It's one of the most Slytherin arcs in the series. Starts in inherited ideology, ends in a private act of rebellion so extreme it becomes legend. Dolores Umbrage. Dolores Jane Umbridge didn't become powerful by being the strongest witch in the room. She became powerful the way a curse becomes permanent, quietly, repeatedly, and with paperwork. She was raised in a household that split down the middle. Wizard father, Muggle mother, and she learned early to treat blood status like a personal hobby. At Hogwarts, she was sorted into Slytherin, but what she wanted wasn't knowledge or friends, it was authority. The tragedy is that Hogwarts didn't give her much of it, so she went where ambition thrives, the Ministry of Magic, where titles are spells and stamps are wands. By the mid-1990s, she's senior undersecretary to Cornelius Fudge, essentially the minister's whisper in the ear and the hand on the gavel. When Voldemort returns and the Ministry panics, Umbridge doesn't panic, she organizes. In 1995 to 96, she's planted at Hogwarts as Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, then becomes High Inquisitor, and finally seizes the throne as headmistress via educational decree. She bans practical defense, weaponizes detention, and turns discipline into theater, smiling while the rules do the stabbing. Her downfall is perfectly Umbridge, not a duel, but consequences. She's dragged off by centaurs after pushing cruelty too far, and later returns to the Ministry to keep doing what she does best, harm with legality. Even when regimes change, she always finds a desk. That's her real magic. Salazar Slytherin. Salazar Slytherin is one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts, which means his backstory is basically the origin story of half the wizarding world's family drama. He helps build the castle in the 10th century, shapes the curriculum, and establishes the house that will carry his name, ambition, resourcefulness, bloodline pride, and an alarming comfort with the idea of selection. Because Salazar wasn't just picky, he was political. At some point during Hogwarts' early years, Slytherin's obsession with keeping Muggle-born students out collides with the other founders' vision. Gryffindor wants courage, Ravenclaw wants learning, Hufflepuff wants inclusion, Slytherin wants a gate. The argument becomes so severe it breaks the founders apart, and Salazar eventually leaves the school, but not before he plants a secret that proves he never truly left. He builds the Chamber of Secrets, hides it deep beneath Hogwarts, and seals inside it a basilisk, an ancient killing machine meant to be unleashed by his true heir when the school is purified. That isn't just dark magic, that's a contingency plan. A founder creating a future purge inside a school he helped invent is the kind of decision that should come with mandatory therapy for the entire castle. Centuries later, his legacy detonates, first in 1943 when Tom Riddle opens the chamber, and again in 1992 when it's opened during Harry's second year. And here's the most Slytherin detail of all. Slytherin doesn't need to be alive to win arguments, he just needs enough time. Salazar's power isn't measured by duels we never see, it's measured by impact. 1,000 years later, Hogwarts is still dealing with the consequences of one man who refused to compromise and decide the best way to make a point was to hide a monster under the floorboards. Now you probably didn't know, but there are 11 wizarding schools in Harry Potter, and you're about to learn all about them. Click your next lesson on screen now before Salazar finds out you're a muggle and sends the basilisk to say hello.